Hello, everyone. Welcome to Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. My name is Rob Deinager, and I'm here with Jack Degraw. And as always, we're talking Yankees baseball. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you tonight, Robert?
I'm not bad. The Yankees brought Boone back on a 3-year deal with an option for a fourth, but they got rid of most of his coaching staff, including one of his dearest friends, third base coach Phil Nevin.
Yeah, I know that they said Boone and Nevin were really close. You know, they used to confide in each other. And, the only question was I thought Boone was getting tired of New York and wanted to go somewhere else. But I'm not surprised they signed him because, if they got rid of him, it just would have, their philosophy was bad. The analytics is not working.
Yeah, because, Boone, he could have waited until after the World Series and tested the waters. There were rumors that the Padres were really interested in him. If the Yankees didn't sign him, they were the number one team to go after him. But they re-signed him before the World Series was over and his contract was up.
Well, he listens to the analytical staff, and, that's... they're all one big happy family there with Cashman and Boone, and, that's the way they're going to run things, and, that's it. Yeah,
and Phil Nevin was asked by a reporter, why were you let go? And he said, and he quote, "It was nothing I did on the field. It was for what I did off the field." And Michael Kay found out through, behind the scenes that Phil Nevin pushed back on the analytics a little bit too much for the Yankees' liking, so that was the reason that let him go. And like Michael Kay said, anyone who thinks the Yankees are going to dial back on analytics are dead wrong. They're actually going to double down on it.
Yeah, I think in a few years you're not going to see any coaches, over 50 years old or 55 years old, because the old generation, the Braves manager is 64 and he's not big on analytics and they're in the World Series, but nowadays everything is analytics. And if you don't go with this, if you don't play on the team, you're not going to have a job in baseball.
Yeah. And the strange thing is the Astros and Red Sox, even though they have a huge analytical department, both Dusty Baker and Alex Cora, they're allowed to make their own decisions. So it just goes to show you that, you don't have to live and die by it, especially if you have a manager who knows what he's doing.
Yeah, you were telling me a story a few weeks ago, Robert. Michael Kay mentioned it, and he said he was talking about a Yankee manager, which was Girardi.
Yeah. He did. He made it. He went with his gut late in the game, and it worked out. And as soon as he got in his office after the game, he had two guys from the analytical department cursing him out, literally dropping F-bombs. And Girardi's reply was, "What? You're not going to congratulate me?" And they basically told him it will never fucking work again. Don't do it. So if they're allowed to come down to the manager's office and rip a manager, the Yankees are giving the analytical department a lot of power.
And we look at it now after 2017, the Yankees were, a couple runs away from the World Series, and Girardi was the manager, and they haven't been anywhere close to the World Series since.
No, and Girardi, even though the Phillies didn't make the playoffs, the fact that the Phillies had no bullpen and one good starter, the fact that he kept them in playoff contention the entire year, speaks to how good of a manager he is.
Yeah, I like Girardi as a manager. Sometimes it's just, it's time to move on, but you don't, like the story you just said, you really don't know what goes behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And maybe, things are a lot different, behind the scenes.
And there's reports that the Yankees want to bring in a bench coach who's heavily into analytics, but also who will be more tougher on the players than Boone. they want Boone to, of course, get along with his players. But the whole reason they got rid of Girardi was because he was too tough on the players. But now there are reports that Cashman would like to bring someone who will be a little bit tougher on the players, so Boone doesn't have to be.
Did they mention any names or anything, or?
Not yet, but they said whoever they sign will be heavily into analytics. They'll be on board 100% with the analytics.
Okay, because there was some talk, maybe bringing in David Cohn as a pitching coach, or he's not in the analytics, so I don't think we're going to see David Cohn.
Yeah, he actually interviewed for the pitching coach job, I think, several years ago, and they turned him down.
Yeah, they only want certain people doing these positions. Everybody's got to be on board, and why the Yankees always put together good teams. They're never good enough to win because they can't win in the playoffs. Yeah,
and it's going to be interesting this offseason because Cashman did say he wants to acquire shortstop. He would like to bring back Rizzo. Wants to evaluate center field. I just wonder if Hal Steinbrenner is willing to spend more money this year than he has in the past couple of years.
Well, I think he'll have to spend more money because the thing is the Yankees aren't going to be able to stay, as one of the top teams in the league if they don't spend money. I mean, a lot of these guys have regressed.
Yeah.
And, Sanchez has gotten worse. Torres has gotten worse. And, they went backwards.
Yeah, Voit was always hurt.
Yeah. Hicks is always hurt. So, you can't, and hopefully Gardner will retire because I get tired. You look at the lineup and, the stats don't lie. I mean, these guys hit 202, 210, 215, 225. Give a young player a chance. Give this kid Florial a chance. I mean, it's not like he's replacing a 280 hitter who hits 20 homers and knocks in 90 runs. I mean, they're replacing guys who hit 220. Yeah,
I mean, he's good. He's got great speed. He's a good defender. He's a lefty bat. I like him. I thought, the couple times they brought him up this past season, he did good, but he never got an extended look. They always sent him right back down. And it'd be nice if he got an extended look at some point.
Yeah, I mean, they've been talking about the kid for 5 years. It was like Clint Frazier when they got him. They raved about him. And now we don't know if he's even going to be in the major leagues. And they did the same thing with Andujar. It's just, they bring in these guys and because they didn't think Andujar or Frazier were good enough to play every day.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
And I think it started out as, let's squeeze as much time as we can out of them. And then as time went, I think sending them up, bringing them up, sending them down, bringing them up, sending them down kind of hurt them more than it helped them. And then they started to lose favor with the Yankees. Yeah.
It's just pretty much, it's pretty much, I think it's ruined their career. They've lost 3 or 4 seasons of, and they had some injuries, but let's look at it this way: if they'd have kept Frazier in the big leagues, would he have got hurt down in Bradenton, hitting his head against the fence in a spring training game, or hitting his head against the wall? They would have said, just play it off the wall. You're on the team. You don't worry about spring training in early March.
Yeah, because in like 2018, 2019, and even 2020, when they brought him up for stretches to replace someone who was hurt, he came through a lot. I mean, he had 2 or 3 game-winning home runs. He was productive, drove in runs, and I think just the constant up and down, started to get to him, and then of course he got hurt.
Yeah, and I mean, this year he was just lost.
Yeah, and apparently he's still suffering from blurriness and dizziness.
Yeah, unfortunately, right now his career is up in the air, and I hope he can get these issues taken care of. Because it could, it's going to impact his life. Hopefully, a lot more important than baseball.
Oh yeah, and Rizzo, like I said, they really would like to bring him back. He turned down a 5-year, $70 million deal from the Cubs, which is why the Yankees got him. But he also has family from New York and Long Island. I mean, if the Yankees could re-sign him for, a nice, a decent discount, then then they got a lot of decisions to make, because LeMahieu got a 6-year, $90 million contract, which means he would have to play second, and then where's Torres play? And if you decide you want to keep Torres and play him at second, then you would have to move LeMahieu to third, and then what do you do with Gio Ushella? So a lot's going to depend on what they do with Rizzo this year, with what might happen with Torres and Ushella.
Yeah, I mean, if they sign Rizzo, Voigt's gone, and Torres, I mean, he's still a young kid. I mean, if I was the Yankees, I wouldn't give up on him. But
no.
If somebody's willing, if you can get a good player for him, it might be a good time to trade him. And the same thing with Ushella. I mean, the only guys you're not going to trade is Stanton and Judge. Everybody else, you put them out there and see what you can get for them.
Yeah, because Hicks, they gave Hicks a 7-year, $140 million contract, and I think he's got at least 4 years left on that deal. I don't see many teams picking up his contract, but Cashman did say he'll look at center field because they need to improve. And I was surprised to hear him say that, because Cashman's always been very high on Hicks.
Well, I believe Marte is available. I think he's a free agent.
Yeah, the Yankees, I think, tried to acquire him at the deadline. Because,
Hicks just ain't cutting it. He can't stay on the field, and Marte would be a good addition, because he can hit, he can cover some ground, and he for the most part he stays healthy.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Yankees, I back up the Brinks truck for Corey Seeger, the shortstop for the Dodgers. He's a left-handed bat, and he's been in the postseason almost every year since he's been in the big leagues with the Dodgers, and he performs excellent in the postseason. He'd be the one shortstop I would love to see them get.
Well, we'd love to see him in New York, and then when you got the two kids coming up, Peraza and Volpe, if they're ready to play short in a couple seasons, there's even you could put Seeger at third base, or
that's what they were saying. You could move him to third base, or you could get someone like Baez as a stopgap until they're ready. But I don't know if Baez would be good in the clubhouse.
Yes. That would be a stretch.
Yeah. And there was also rumors, too, some reports and rumors that the Yankees clubhouse this year wasn't tight. A lot of people were kept to themselves and just lackadaisical. Yeah, I mean,
it's even amazing that they won 92 games. At one point, they were 41-41.
Yeah.
And in the first half, I mean, there was no hitting at all.
Yeah.
And even in the second half, when they got Rizzo and they got Gallo, but if you look what Rizzo did with the Yankees in 58 games, he had 8 homers and 21 RBIs.
Yeah.
And, I was surprised. I thought it was better than that, because in the second half, everybody contributed. Everybody hit a lot better.
Yeah.
But, And the question is, do you want to spend all that money on Rizzo? And if you sign Rizzo, are you going to be able to sign Seeger?
Yeah.
The Yankees can do it. They can sign anybody they want, but do they want to do it?
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can see what...
Because it just seems like, take a team like the Red Sox when they won in 2013. 2012, they lost over 90 games. 13, they win the series. 14 and 15, they lose close to 90 games. And then they win the series in 18. They finished last year, and this year they're in. The Yankees are never going to go backwards to go forward. No. They got the Yes Network. They want to get to 3 million fans in the stadium, and they're just never going to go backwards. They're going to keep on. They're going to keep on the philosophy they've had, and it's been successful. But it's disappointing because they always say we're going to win the series, and they just always fall short.
Yeah, and Rizzo in the second half of the season with the Yankees batted .250 with a .340 on base percentage with 8 home runs, 21 RBIs, and 7 doubles, and only 173 at bats. Yeah,
I mean, I thought it was better than that. I know he got injured. I mean, he got off to a good start, but like we were just saying, everybody else picked it up a little bit. So I thought the stats were a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know he can hit. But I know he had COVID there for a while. And he got hurt.
Yeah. But, it'll be interesting to see what, happens this offseason. And hopefully they won't have a strike, which I think they're going to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a possibility too.
So, what do you think they'll do with Sanchez, Robert?
I really think they'll non-tender him unless he's willing to take something like $7-8 million a year to come back for a year. But I don't see them giving him a multi-year contract.
No, I think next year it's only like a little less than $8 million they'll give him. But I think, with everything that's happened over the last 3 or 4 seasons, and they brought Boone back to make a lot of the fans happy, and then they're going to bring back, if they bring back Sanchez, and say they keep Gallo and they got Rizzo and Torres, you got the same team.
Yeah, and when they asked him what are you going to do about Sanchez, he says we'll see. And when Brian Cashman says we'll see, that usually means he's not bringing a player back.
Yeah, hopefully, they'll look for other options. I mean, it's just reached a point in New York where, I don't think the fans will be very happy if they see Sanchez behind the plate on opening day.
Oh, no. And Cashman did say he got better framing pitches, but I mean, he cost us 3 games down the stretch, with his defense.
Yeah.
That game against Baltimore, then the other one against Cleveland, and I think it might have been that lazy tag in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to play the what if.
Yeah.
And, the Yankees had games this year. They had like 5 or 6 games that, they just didn't, the bullpen didn't come up and give up, like it happens. You give up a 2-run homer in the 9th, or, these things happen 2 or 3 times a year. But with the Yankees, it happened 6, 7 times. I mean, they lost games 3, 4, 5-run, leads in the 9th inning. And we'll play the if game. I mean, they might have had the wild card game at Yankee Stadium, and Boston and Toronto might have had to play, know a game to get to the wild card game. So, I mean...
and Stanton had a comment that I think was directed towards the analytical department. he was talking about days off and not playing the field. And he was like, games in May and June are just as important as the games down the stretch at the end of the year. He's like, one game here or there early in the year means we're playing at Yankee Stadium. You know?
Right. And I mean, the thing is, it took till almost August to get Stanton in the outfield.
Yeah.
And there was talk about that all season. And there was talk of, like, you know, Torres going to second base, and they didn't do that till the middle of September. And then he went back to second, and he hit well. You know? So, I mean, with all the things, they could have won 100 games this year.
Yeah, but, you know, and I know fans love to get on on Stanton, but, I mean, my God, that man shows up in the postseason.
Yeah, I believe he has 9 homers and 63 at-bats.
Yeah.
It just seems to me in New York, Robert, it's like with Judge and Stanton, Judge is Jeter, and Stanton is A-Rod.
Yeah.
That's what it just looks like to me. Stanton is a terrific player. Stanton is a great player.
Oh, yeah. You don't win the National League MVP if you can't play a little baseball.
No, and I mean, like, he went to the outfield, he played well. It's just that, you know, when sluggers go into slumps, they look terrible. You know, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, and Chapman, he's going to be a free agent after next year. Do the Yankees trade him at some point during the season at the trade deadline? Do you think? Well,
I the thing that concerns me about him is, like, when he comes in the games now, I mean, I still think he's a good pitcher. I don't think he's a great pitcher anymore. You know, he don't hit 100, 101, 102 like he used to, and he has to throw a lot of off-speed stuff because he don't have command of his fastball.
Yeah.
And when he tries to throw the fastball, he overthrows it. And he seemed to have lost a little velocity. Not much, but like 99, 100 isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, because I think Jonathan Loaiza would make a great closer if we ever move on from Chapman.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah,
I mean,
he throws hard and has some wicked stuff.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. What are they going to do with Severino next year? And what are you really going to get out of him if he's a starter? How many innings are you going to get at him?
Yeah, because he hasn't pitched in years. I mean, it'd probably be wise if they had him coming out of the bullpen or a setup man.
I mean, I don't know how many innings he's pitched in the minor leagues the last 2 years, but it's probably been, 60 innings max?
Yeah. 40 to 60, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, how many innings are you going to get him out of him next year?
Yeah, and Zach Britton, he's gone because he needs to have Tommy John surgery, so he won't be back next year. So you're going to need somebody in the late innings to pitch, and that might be look at John Smoltz moved to the bullpen halfway through his career, and he was great as a closer. Yeah,
Dennis Eckersley. One of the names I've heard thrown around is Andrew Miller.
Oh, didn't we have him at one point?
Yeah, he was outstanding.
Yeah,
he's with the Cardinals. He don't throw anywhere near as hard as he used to, but he's still good against lefties.
Yeah,
so that might be a guy just you can bring him in 50, 60 games and just have him face lefties.
And did you see what happened to the Cardinals manager? Why they fired him?
Well, I didn't hear the story, Robert. I heard some rumors. Tell the story. I didn't.
Well, the Cardinals organization decided to fire his coaching staff because they felt they weren't into the analytics, so they wanted to bring on a coaching staff that was more in behind analytics. And the manager said, if you fire my coaching staff, then you got to fire me too. So they fired him. And that's despite him taking him to the playoffs, I think. 2 out of 3 years, something like that.
So Robert, they fired the whole coaching staff?
Yeah, because they wanted to bring in more coaches who are more into analytics. And he told them, if you fire my coaching staff, you'll have to let me go too, or fire me too. And so they fired him.
They got rid of the pitching coach, the hitting, and everybody?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's interesting, Robert, because I know a guy who was with the Cardinals. He was a pitching coach in the lower levels. And he was saying, like, a couple years ago, last time I talked to him, how a lot of the older pitching coaches weren't too happy with the analytics.
Really?
So, you know, I'm glad you told me that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I was on SportsCenter one day, and I was like, holy cow. I mean, here's a guy that just got him into the playoffs, and they want to go heavier into analytics, and they want to replace his coaching staff, and he put his foot down. And despite his success, they fired him too.
Well, that's what happened when the Yankees got rid of Buck Showalter.
Yeah.
You know, George said, well, you can stay, but, we're going to fire your coaching staff. And Buck said no.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if treating players just like their numbers and not people is having a negative effect on some of these teams and a lot of the players.
Well, you never know what goes on behind the scenes, but, usually the coaches are good people. They get along. Yeah, they're people persons or whatever. And it just seems, you're working with human beings. You're not working with robots. And I think if they have people in analytics who've never played the game, who've never actually been on the field, there's a lot of resentment from the players and the coaches, which I understand. They should be pissed off. Yeah,
I mean, how many times this year did we see somebody go, 2 for 3 or 3 for 4 with a couple of home runs, and then the next day he's off? That drives me crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you watch games, and the pitcher will throw 4 2/3 innings, and they'll take him out of the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when Domingo Germán was throwing that no-hitter. You could tell from the 6th inning started that Boone wanted to take him out. And he had the bullpen up in the 6th. He had the bullpen up in the 7th. And when he gave up that hit in the 8th that Greg Allen misplayed, and then he gave up a cheap home run, and Boone took him right out of the game, despite the fact that he struck out 4 batters the inning before. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's what the game is now. I mean, they said the average age of a baseball fan is like 57.
Yeah, and I'd probably embrace analytics a little bit more if the game was a little bit more fun to watch. But it's getting harder to watch, not better, and they're not drawing in any new fans. Yeah,
well, the younger people, they don't have they have a short attention span.
Yeah.
So you have to knock them out with home runs, and excitement quick. They don't want to sit and watch a game and watch it's not what's happening on the field; it's what might happen.
Yeah.
The thought process behind it. What could happen a couple innings from now, and it's just like everything has to be now.
It's like growing up. I remember, you had Ricky Henderson leading off, followed by Willie Randolph, then Don Mattingly, then Dave Winfield, and in the '90s it's like players knew what their role was within the lineup, and nowadays it seems like the lineup is different every day. And players don't know what their role is, so they just go up there looking to hit home runs or try to draw a walk.
Yeah. And, the teams like the Yankees who've been successful doing that, it's just not going to change.
Yeah.
And Go ahead, Robert. Sorry.
No, hopefully, LeMahieu was playing hurt this year. Otherwise, if it wasn't an injury, then, hopefully he can rebound next year. But, him not having the year he's usually, we're used to him having, hurt us at the top of the lineup this year.
Yeah, I mean, he hit the ball a lot more on the ground this year.
Yeah.
And it's like he was around 268, 270, 272, like almost all season. He never got a hot streak.
No.
It's like he never got, you always expect at some point, well, he'll go 15 for 30 or something like that, to get the average up. And it just never happened. I mean, he was consistent. He didn't have any long slumps, but he just, he didn't knock in the runs. He didn't hit the home runs. It was just, he had a very subpar season.
Yeah. And looking at the stats, Miguel Andujar in 45 games had 6 home runs and 12 RBIs, and he was playing sparingly. I still think if he can go to another team and get a fresh start, I still think he could have a solid career.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about it a lot of the show, and I just think, the last 3 seasons, he had that great rookie year, and, they weren't happy with his defense, and it's like, it would have been interesting to see if they just would have kept him at third base.
Yeah.
Kept him at third base, and then, instead of Gardner, they would have had Clint Frazier, and he was ready a couple of years ago just to step in the lineup and, see what would have happened.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the last 30 games of the year, and Aaron Judge batted .308, Stanton batted .276, Ushella batted .321, LeMahieu batted .267, and other than that, I mean, Rizzo 200, Gardner 214, Torres 233, Gallo 087. I mean, they struggled to hit down the stretch except for a few of the guys.
Well, the only guys who played really well this year, the position players, I mean, Judge and Stanton were outstanding.
Yeah.
And Gio had a year, you'd expect Gio to have it, and everybody else, it was subpar or below average. Yeah. It was just, it's amazing they won as many games as they did.
And Judge had 40 more bats than Stanton, and Judge hit 39 home runs, Stanton hit 35, and Judge knocked in 98 runs, Stanton knocked in 97, and Stanton had 40 less at bats.
Yeah, well, those 2 guys are the main reason they got in the postseason.
Yeah. And Judge is a must. Is a priority to re-sign. I mean, when he's healthy, and he was healthy this past year, and, when he's healthy, he can play.
Well, they got a new strength coach a couple of years ago. I think his last name is Cressy, and, he's done a good job. They don't post the videos in the off season anymore, like, they're pulling cars or they're pulling weights, and so he's just seen they've for a good for guys like Judge and Stanton, they've been able to stay healthy.
Yeah, and it's like Ushella only played in 116 games. Luke Voit only played in 68 games. So, I mean, the injury bug did hurt him. Hicks only played in 32 games.
Well, for the first half of the season, you had Wade in the outfield, and you had Andrew Hart. You had guys playing out of position, and a couple of years ago, look, they had all these outfielders, and then, with everybody getting hurt, you had Brett Gardner playing all the games. You didn't bring up Florial and really give him a chance. So, Greg Allen. So, it's amazing they did as well as they did.
Florial played in 11 games this year, and he batted .300 with the .440 on base percentage, with a home run and 2 RBIs with a pair of doubles. So in 11 games, he was productive, but he never got an extended look.
Well, the thing with him now, it was always like, well, you want him in the minor leagues to get at bats.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how long is this going to go on? This is, last year, well, they were playing at Scranton, with the COVID and everything. But I mean, you bring the guy up, even if he's only a fourth outfielder.
Yeah.
With these guys getting hurt, at least he has a chance.
Yeah.
And I get tired, every year it's Brett Gardner, and the guy hits 220, and it's like it's time to get a new face, and I want to see a new face.
And looking at our rotation right now, we've got Garrett Cole, Montgomery, Domingo Germán, James Talion when he comes back in May or June. But that's only, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, because I think Severino will be best served coming out of the bullpen. I don't think you want to, rack up his innings as a starter this year or next year.
Yeah, I believe, with maybe with a free agent or with a trade, they get some starting pitching. I know there's a kid on Miami they're interested in, and they traded a little bit with Miami, and the people in Miami know the talent on the Yankees because they were with the Yankees, the scouting department and everything. So maybe they can work something out, that way. Because I like to see some new pitchers.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. And also, I heard the Yankees, they don't love Trevor Story, because I remember earlier in the year a lot of fans wanted us to go after Trevor Story of the Rockies, but apparently from insiders they say that the Yankees have cooled off on him. So it's either Baez, Correa of the Astros, Seeger of the Dodgers, or Simeon of the Blue Jays.
Yeah. Well, if it was the old days, we know who they would have. They'd have Seeger with the Dodgers. So hopefully they'll make a big splash and sign some big name free agents, because they have to improve this team because they're going south. They're not getting better. Yeah,
because they thought lefty-righty matchups didn't matter because the numbers told the story, and they found out last year having a right-handed lineup, it hurts you, it doesn't help you. So they got to make sure they have some lefties in the lineup.
Yeah, in previous seasons, they got away with a little bit because everybody contributed, but in the first half of last year, nobody was hitting. So you see why you need lefty-righties, especially in the state.
I tell you, though, if they run back the same team, I think the Yankee fans will riot.
Yeah, because it looked like, when you get to the seventh game, I never like when they say, oh, this is they were lucky this year. No, they got to the seventh game of the American League final because they were good enough. One game for the World Series. And then it looked like, okay, well, maybe we're gonna have a couple series appearances in 5 years. We're gonna win a series or two, and they've had outstanding teams, but they're just never good enough. The core they were relying on, they've gotten worse. They haven't gotten better.
No, and even though Girardi had been there a long time, and it is time to move on from guys who have been there way too long. But the one thing I did like about him was he held the players accountable privately and publicly.
Yeah, now you look back, well, if he was there in 18 and 19, would they have got to the series?
I think so, at least once.
Yeah. So,
yeah, because he pushes buttons, and some guys just respond to that.
Yeah, and they undervalue Didi. And, we've been through it so many times. Like Torres, when he was in the minor leagues, he played shortstop. And they were saying, well, he's going to move to second when he gets to the big leagues and he'll hit more homers. Then he gets to the big leagues. He has a great couple of seasons. He hit 37 homers one year. And then they put the kid at shortstop in New York when you want to win a series.
Yeah.
And I don't blame Torres.
No.
I don't blame Torres. It's like he was set up to fail.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing that disturbed me was when they mentioned how the clubhouse was separated this year. It was quiet, and that was the one thing that Didi brought to the clubhouse. He was a guy who joked around and got everyone involved, and they need to bring in people that are gonna bring the team together, behind closed doors.
Yeah, and I mean, when you bring in you bring in a lot of veterans. It's you bring in veterans, it's a whole thing. When you have guys come up together through the minors, maybe you have more camaraderie. But when you don't, you get young and old, and they really don't have anything in common. And when you're struggling, you really don't have a lot in common.
Yeah, yeah, and I saw that Volpe and Peraza, is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah, they said they should be ready by the end of 2022 and 2023. They should be ready.
Well, the good thing is, we'll be able to see them in spring training.
Yeah.
So that's something to look forward to.
They do. They hope Peraza gets better with the bat, but Volpe, at every level they moved him up this year, he got better at the plate.
Yeah, I mean, Robert, I only seen him 3 games, and you really can't judge anybody on 3 games.
Nah.
In those 3 games I seen him, he had like 8 hits, 4 homers, 10 RBIs. He was so outstanding, he just stood out.
Yeah.
He was just way better in the competition.
Yeah, and wait till he fills out, once he starts hitting like 23, 24, and you start getting, that physique, you start growing up a little bit and get a little bigger.
Yeah, well, he's a New Jersey guy, too, from Del Barton and Morristown, so, he'll be a local favorite.
Oh, yeah. And I know there was talk of they might move him to third base down the line, but right now they're keeping him at short.
Yeah, well, I just hope when he comes up, they give him a shot.
Yeah, do you think that they'll give him a spring training invite this year?
Oh yeah, he'll get an invite, and he'll get a shot at playing because they have inter squad games, and a lot of times the veterans come out in the 3rd, 4th, 5th inning. So he'll play a lot of games, from the 4th, 5th inning on, and he'll get his share of that. So it'll be fun to watch.
And I think as long as Clark Schmidt stays healthy, I think going into training camp, spring training, and being healthy, I think he'll have a much better year next year. Yeah,
I mean, it's about time. We hear about these guys year after year. Michael King. It's time for them to step up and get better.
Yeah, because that guy Gill, he came up and he pitched 15 scoreless innings, and then next thing you know, he can't find the strike zone.
Yeah, that's what happens with the young pitchers, and they were always coming in. And a high pressure situation because the Yankees had to win just to get in the playoffs. So the experience they got should only help them. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting because I mean, if I had to guess, I think the Yankees will non-tender Sanchez and let him walk. But I'm interested to see if they do bring back Rizzo, what they'll do with either Gleyber or Ushella. You know, I mean, would they keep Gleyber on the bench? You know, something like that, or do you think they package him in a trade?
Well, I think everything is
on the table.
Yeah, we'll see. You know, when the winter meetings come, hopefully they won't have a strike, because if they have a strike, everything off the board. And but which I think they will have a strike, and it could get ugly. But if they don't, I mean, it's an exciting off season. With making moves and the winter meetings coming up in a few weeks. So a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and someone, I think it was the Post, reported that the Yankees should make a run at Justin Berlander. I mean, he just had Tommy John surgery this past season, and the last thing I want is another veteran pitcher from the Astros.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what happened this year with Kluber, and then they had Domingo Germán, and then they had Talion. So you had three guys who pitched maybe one inning last year.
Yeah.
And Kluber pitched pretty well. I mean, he pitched some outstanding games and no-hitter. But you could see that come. I mean, you're going to bring in Berlander, who was a great pitcher, but how was he going to give you?
Yeah. And Montgomery, at one point, he had in 24, 25 starts, had given up 3 runs or less in 20 of his last 25 starts. I mean, he pitched really, really great in the second half, but his record didn't reflect it.
Yeah, he had a pretty he had a really good season. If you followed the team and watched him, he kept you in almost every game, and the record doesn't show, like you mentioned, but he was pretty reliable.
Yeah, I mean, he's someone who I thought would make the leap a year or two ago, but if he keeps on improving, he's a nice lefty to have in the rotation.
Yeah, I feel confident when he's on the mound.
Yeah, checking the last 30 days. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, but he did. He had a really good year.
Yeah, and I think it's good to have a lefty in the rotation. You can throw after Cole.
Yeah. I still think Domingo Germán, if he can build up his arm strength, is still a solid pitcher.
Well, he's had some good outings, and hopefully, coming back next year after they've had a full season, or this year, they'll get back on the routine again. You're coming off the 60-game season, then you play a full season, and they'll be able to build up over the winter, and then when you come into spring training, you're ready to go.
Yeah, and what happened to Luis Cesar? Did we trade him this past season?
Oh, yeah, Cesar went to the Reds.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, he was good while he was with us this year.
Yeah, Cesar pitched really well with the Reds too.
Yeah, oh, did he?
Yeah, he had a really good season with the Reds. He pitched really well.
Yeah. Yeah, and they designated Andrew Haney for assignment. They got rid of him.
Well, that was that was like Steve Trout. When Ray hit me Burris, it was just it was tough to watch.
Yeah. But it's going to be interesting to see who the Yankees pick for Boone's coaches, because apparently he's not going to have much of a say in who his coaches are going to be on the bench.
Well, you don't know. Maybe they'll just stay in the organization.
Yeah.
Move guys up from AAA or AA and see what happens there. So it's hard to say at this point.
Yeah, it just this age of analytics, it bothers me. We'll never see a 300-game winner or players like Henderson or Vince Coleman. I mean, there's things that we won't see again that we did when we were growing up.
Well, there was every team had they had speed guys, or almost every team, and now it's just changed so much, and that's what the young generation wants to see. I mean, the people keep going to games. They talk about attendance being down, but you look in the box scores. I mean, even if the attendance is down, they still have 35,000, 40,000. So I mean, it can't be down that much.
No, and the Dodgers-Braves game had like 4.5 million or something like that that tuned in to watch. It was one of the highest, most watched games in years.
Yeah, so I mean, they always say the sport is dying out, but it's not. It's not dying out that much. And one of the things we can get into, Robert, one of these next time we talk is like, the minor leaguers, how they don't make a lot of money, and it's tough living conditions. And that's why you see a lot of players from the Dominican Republic and Venezuela, because, the American kids are going to go to college. You're going to have a great experience. You're going to play high-quality baseball. They're not going to want to come to the minor leagues and go around on $500-$600 a month. I mean,
no.
So that's another thing we can touch on in a future podcast.
Yeah. I tell you, I really do hope that Cashman upgrades in center field. Like you said, that guy Marte, was that his name?
Yep.
Sterling Marte. I would love to see them get someone like him.
Well, I mean, a couple of years ago, we had Sanchez, we had Torres, Didi, and Hicks, and they all looked like they were coming on. And, and Sanchez has went way downhill. Torres is, he struggled a little bit. Didi's with the Phillies, and Hicks can't stay on the field. So that's, that's what's happened in 4 seasons.
It's like I wonder if the Yankees could even get anything for Andujar, Frazier, or even Torres. I mean, I think you might be able to get something for Torres, but not what you might have been able to get a few years ago.
No, Torres still has an upside, and I think you could get a good player for him. Andujar, you could probably get somebody for him because he can hit.
Yeah.
And Sanchez at this point, I mean, he'll be in the big leagues. I think with the year he had this year, at least he shows he's still got some power. So, some teams would be interested, but I don't think nothing like you would have had 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I'm looking at stats. Austin Wells is batting .409 in the Arizona Fall League so far.
Yeah, they got a few catchers they're interested in. I think Austin Wells needs a little work on his defense. And the Yankees got a guy named Danny Sands. He's a catcher. I believe he's in Double-A. And there's a few other guys, which the names escape me right now. So, but we'll see these guys in spring training.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can straighten out Debbie Garcia. Because he did. He looked like he had, he was a surefire prospect. And like you said, changing his motion last year for some reason really screwed him up good.
Well, I mean, you really got to question what the scouting department's doing and the coaching, in the minors. I mean, the guys are supposed to get better. They're not supposed to get worse. So, something's not working right.
And when's the CBAF? What, in December?
I think it's to be the beginning of December. I believe it's the beginning of December.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if they go on strike, oh my God. I remember in '94 when they went on. I mean, it took Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa belting home runs to bring the fans back, even though the Yankees were winning. It really wasn't until Socha and McGuire started hitting home runs that the fans came back.
Yeah, well, you've seen what happened in 2020 when they were trying to agree on a season.
Mm.
They wanted to play 80 games, and then they wanted to play 70. And, it would have been nice if they could have got the season started, say, like the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even agree on that. And
it seems like they just like to fight.
Yeah. It's like, they fight, argue, and nothing gets accomplished. It sounds like, our crooked politicians. So
yeah.
Story.
Yeah. I mean, would you like to see the universal DH come to the National League?
I like the DH. I always have. But I can understand the old crew who like to see the pitchers hit. With the strategy involved. Personally, I like the DH, but I don't have that big of a problem with, the National League wants to, keep the pitchers hitting. But I think eventually there'll be a universal DH.
Yeah, and I'd love to see them get rid of the extreme shift. I think you should have 2 defenders on the left side of second and 2 defenders on the right side of second. And I hate seeing 3 guys on one side of the infield and the other guy out in the outfield.
Yeah, hopefully, they'll address that, and they'll do something with that, because that's one of the things a lot of people don't like about baseball. It's it's just a different game.
Yeah, I mean, I get the strategy, but I mean, if it's, to be more exciting, it'd be nicer if, getting a base hit was, more accessible, because when we got 3 guys playing on one side of the infield and, he's a dead pull hitter, well, he's got to hit a home run, otherwise it's an automatic out.
Yeah, and then they say, the batter should go the other way. It's not that easy. And the way to get to the big leagues is to hit home runs.
Yeah.
That's how you'll get noticed. So, I don't think it's going to change.
Oh, and also there was a report too that if the Yankees are unable to re-sign Rizzo, there's a chance that they might try to make a trade with Oakland for Matt Olson, their lefty hitting first baseman.
Well, that'd be a good pickup. I mean, if you sign, I don't know if they're going to sign both, Rizzo and say they want Seeger. I don't think they're going to do both, but they could.
Yeah.
But do they want to?
Yeah. Because I think Rizzo's 32 going on 33, and I think the last thing they want to do is give another 33-year-old a 5-year contract like they did DJ.
Yeah, that comes back to bite you. I mean, if you win a World Series at within the first 2 or 3 years, it's worth it. But if you don't towards the end of it, it goes south of the border, because as players get older, they just their skills decline.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of things that are going to happen this off season. I just hope a strike doesn't put a monkey wrench into it.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, maybe a week from now or 2 weeks from now, we'll catch up and see if there's any news. Anytime,
Robert. It's always nice to talk to you. It's always great to talk baseball and sports in general.
Likewise. I wish my schedule wasn't so hectic. Sometimes my sleeping patterns get all screwed up.
Well, when you have trouble sleeping, you just never feel right. So it's tough.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk again the next time some news pops up.
Sounds good, Robert. You take care of yourself.
Oh, you too. And to our listeners, we'll talk to you later.